Hello, future bestsellers. So, you guys know last week we were talking about how Robert had spent the night in a haunted house and scary. I had spoken with him right around the time that he was planning on leaving, and then I didn't hear from him last week, and we were really worried about it. But you guys will be happy to know he's alive. Yay!
I live.
Yay! I'm super glad about that. So, Robert, I'm first of all, we're very glad to have you back. We missed you very much last week. Um, I guess before we get started, Michelle is not with us today. She had another client conflict. But let's do our intros really fast. And then we want to hear about this haunted house. Mary's already like, yay, what happened? All right. So we were very into it. We all talked about our love of haunted house shows and lore and things like that. So let's quickly do our intros, and then I want to jump right into the haunted house because we were all just on the edge of our seats and very worried about your safety last week. We were concerned that we were like 80 to 85% sure that you had been abducted by a ghost. So tell us a little about you and your 5 channel, and we will dig in after that.
Well, my channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling, place them under a Sherlockian lens, and break down the craft for the viewer in hopes of making their craft journey easier. Now, I will say, I have quite a bit to say this week, and I've had flu B, so it still has a lingering cough. And the last couple of days since the weather got colder, I've been having these coughing spasms. So I took some cold medicine before I got on here, and hopefully it goes into effect. But if I pause or there's coughing, I'll just mute, and you'll know why.
We will. Well, I'm glad that you're starting to feel a little better, but I've heard that flu is just absolutely miserable. So
It is.
I'm
It,
very sorry that you're going through that. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, so I'll do my intro really fast, and then we will get on to what everybody really wants to hear about, which is the story of the haunted house that you spent the night or spent much of the night in. Okay, so hi everybody. If you are new here, I'm Lisa Daly. I'm a best-selling author of both fiction and nonfiction, and a book coach. And on my channel, we talk about how to write a book you're super proud of and get it published. So and some other stuff. And this week we're talking about ghosts because in doing some well, you explain why you decided that you would like to spend the night in a haunted house, Robert.
Well, I was finishing up the last read through and tweaks on a horror novella. I did finish it. I sent it off to the copyright office, and I'm waiting to hear back from the registration. Then I'm going to send it out to some beta readers. So, the house itself does have a history that I'm fairly aware of because it's my father's house. Now, it really does look like a haunted house now because my father has not kept up with anything. He's been a recluse for the past 14, 15 years since my mother passed, and been trying to clean up his house and figure out what's going on with things. And I decided, first I'll give you the history, a little bit.
I know, right? Because it has an interesting history. All right.
And then we'll get to what happened when I was there. I did film some things. I didn't get anything particularly strange on film, but some odd things did happen. You can take it as you will. I was always the skeptic growing up. My mother and my brother said that they saw and heard various things. Maybe they were just more sensitive. Maybe they were just more imaginative thinking about this. But my mother had stories where she saw like this man standing in the house who would be there 1 minute and disappear the next. Now, somebody did die in the house, and I can't remember whether it was from a serious illness or a suicide or some combination of both. The moral here is never buy a house that somebody died in.
Good to know. You know, they're supposed to disclose those things, but a lot of times they don't. Like, I think that, like, after a certain like once they change, because you used to not have to disclose those things, and then I think we all know what happened with Amityville, and so that
Mhm.
changed really. No, I don't know why they did, but I do know that in some states you're required to disclose if you know, like if a major crime occurred or a murder or something like that. So okay, so we have a former dead guy in the house. We have a
Mhm.
history of man ghost sightings in the house.
Right.
When you were growing up there, did you ever experience anything weird? I feel like I needed like a sound effect. Woo. Okay.
I have only
Anything?
seen one thing, but first I have to say that the basement used to be a finished basement, and for a while my brother stayed down there. When my mother was ill, I stayed down there for a good chunk of time. I never saw or heard anything. A lot of what happened is supposedly centered around the basement and this area where there's a little hall going past the bathroom towards the door leading to the basement. Now, I have to say, whether it was just the stories that I heard, or whether there's something to it, but approaching that area of the basement door always did have a odd vibe. Uh,
Really?
and when I was there, getting up from the basement, because the basement has no bathroom, and coming up the stairs and going through that little section to the bathroom always felt kind of eerie at night. Again, after hearing all these stories,
Right.
my brother lived there, and relatives have heard this. I haven't. Other people did. There was always banging and crashing periodically in the basement. There was a drop ceiling, and several times they thought panels must have fallen down because it was such a loud crash, but they would go down and there would be absolutely nothing. Um,
That's
the
crazy.
creepiest story is, my brother stayed there with his ex. And when my brother was out late one night, she said that the TV in the living room came on full blast and she just huddled in bed, terrified to get up. My
Really?
brother said he heard footsteps overhead all the time, like my parents, if they were shopping, would come back. And once he said he heard the TV in the living room on, but when they came up, there was nothing. These are all stories that are hearsay, but it's part of all of this, I guess.
Right.
Part of
Well,
what
and if you
goes
keep
through.
hearing the same thing over and over and over again.
Exactly. And, to me, my brother is kind of into the paranormal and everything much more than I am. So, being that he's interested in all that, and this is partly why he's interested through these experiences,
Sure, of course.
you kind of, excuse me, you kind of are drawn to maybe wanting to discover more. You become the Mulder character where you want to believe. So, you're going to be more prone to seeing and hearing things that may or may not be there. I guess
Right, you
if
get a little confirmation bias.
exactly. But my mother said a couple of times when she was there alone, she heard such banging in the basement that she actually went outside and sat until my father got home that night, that it pretty much terrified her.
Really?
Yeah. So I kind
Wow.
of thought, all right, there's something there. There's something that's making noise. But like I said, I never heard banging. I thought maybe it was the furnace, but somebody said like an HVAC system has something that can go wrong and create this banging sound. But my father doesn't have an HVAC system. He has an old fuel propelled heater. It roars when it comes on, and then you hear the fan engage, and it always makes the same sound, but it never bangs. So, are people imagining these things, or are they not?
Right. Or are they hearing something else and their brain goes, "Oh, that's the same thing someone else, yeah." So that's fascinating. Fascinating. So Free Range Female says, I've lived in two haunted houses. The last one, a couple was murdered while their 4-year-old was in the
Oh my!
bathroom. Oh God, that's so sad. We would see them walking around in what was the child's bedroom. If I if I were murdered, I would definitely like haunt my children's houses just to make sure they were okay. I'd like just hang around. I'm positive that the horror geek will haunt me. Free range female wants to know, how are you using this in the story you're writing? Is it horror or mystery? So
It's a
you
horror
wanted to
story,
it's a horror
and,
story. You wanted to go spend the night.
and I wanted to go out there to try to recapture some of those feelings, maybe because the story is about fear.
Yeah.
Um, and how it can get the better of somebody, but what happens if somebody who has those secret fears encounters something?
I love it. All right, here's what we're going to do. We are going to do our first 5-minute warm up sprint, let everybody get their documents open, their drinks, and all that. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what happened to you when you spent the night over at
First,
the
I'll tell you
haunted
what I
house.
saw when I was, in my teens, and then
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
go on to the days I spent out there.
I'm excited. I'm excited about this. Okay, so let me go ahead and get this 5-minute timer up, and we will do that first, and then we will come back and hear more about the haunted house, which I am so excited about. I totally nerd out over this stuff. I don't know why. I didn't used to, but I like seriously do now. All right, here we go, everybody. Starting in 3, 2, 1. 5-minute sprint. Let's get your stuff together for writing. All right, we are back. So, okay. First of all, tell us about the experiences you have growing up, and then tell us everything that happened when you plan to spend the night.
Well, the only thing I ever saw that may or may not be explainable was when I was working a summer job before I went to art school, and it was working in a garden center out in the sun. So I'd come home sunburnt and sweating, and I took a shower. And near the end, getting out of the shower, there was a shampoo bottle sitting on the shelf that started doing this little dance. And I was,
What?
huh?
I said,
And I thought
what?
it must be like the steam from the shower because there's nothing rumbling in the house. So, steam, a breeze. So I'm testing it by fanning it with the towel and blowing on it and trying to get it to move, but it wouldn't move. So I chalked that up to a question mark because, isn't there an explanation for all that? I don't know. But that was the only peculiar thing that I ever saw in the house visually. As far as the footsteps overhead that my brother said he heard
Uh-huh.
when I was there, I had a little writing space downstairs that I'd work during the day, and if my parents went out for a doctor appointment or shopping, there were a few times when I heard the front door open. I'd be right under where they come in, and it's a wood floor, so you hear the beams creaking and footsteps walking from the door to the other side of the room, and I thought, "They're back," and I went up to help them carrying groceries or whatever, and nobody would be there. So whatever that is, again, I know my brother's not making that up because I
Right.
know those things. But that's about it for me. I never heard any banging or anything, that might be like, okay, this confirms it all. Last summer was kind of like the biggest confirmation I ever got. And
What happened?
that's when Georgie and I were out there cleaning the place up. And we were having like a yard sale to get rid of some of the stuff. And it was getting late. And I went up to the local deli to get us some food. And while I'm at the store, I get a text from Georgie, and she said there was just a man in here. And I thought she met a man walked in the house off the street because of the yard sale. So I get back and I say, "What happened?" But the story she tells me is she's walking from one room to the next, and there was a man standing there about my height wearing a white shirt, and he just vanished. So it's the same story that my mother told, but I never told Georgie that story.
What? And we know Georgie's sane, so there's
Georgie
that.
is very factual. She does not like conspiracy theories or made up crap. So coming from her, I was like, oh.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
maybe
that's like
the
if the horror geek told me he saw like an actual ghost. Like as much as he loves that stuff, if I said like I saw a ghost, he would mercilessly torture me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So that was probably the most confirming thing. And that's why I wanted to go out there and spend a few days because I thought if I'm working on this story, why not? I
Yeah.
didn't know if I would see anything, but again, I had a lot of nightmares growing up, so who knows whether that contributes, but I watched a lot of horror movies, and, horror and science fiction was my thing, and even if I had nightmares, I'd go right back and watch the next horror movie and have nightmares, so
I
for a
think
while,
go ahead.
I wanted to be the next Stephen King. That was my first novel I ever attempted outside of comic book scripts when I was, like, I think late teens, and, it was a horror story. I never finished it, and I moved on to other things.
Sure.
Horror in recent years isn't the horror that I remember it. Most of it is just, let's establish a thin baseline for a story and then see how creative we can get from one death to the next. And,
Right.
it's almost like a dark comedy of how creatively you can kill somebody.
Yes. There is some of that. You might hear some of that same discussion over on Sick Flicks. The horror geek is fond of the older films. But yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The older has an atmosphere, it has more plot, it just gives you more. It's even more therapeutic, and people do watch horror movies for therapy because
Yeah.
it's almost like, if you're pissed off at the world, you'll see like idiots get their comeuppance or whatever. So I think, and other people have told me that, if you watch an apocalyptic movie and there's nobody left on the planet, it's almost therapeutic, like, oh, we can start over again.
Right. I'm gonna just update my movie list for right now for this week. The apocalypse. I love that. So what happened? Okay? So you plan to spend. I'm sorry about the breaking.
I plan to spend from Wednesday before last up until Saturday morning, and I made it till late Friday night.
So what happened to have
First-
you to
first 2
send you
days-
home?
First 2 days, nothing happened. I worked on my book, from morning till night, and I got about 3/4 finished with it. So I got a lot of writing done within those first 2 days. The only odd thing that happened is my brother said, lights would sometimes go on and off. Now, since there's still some debris in the living room, I thought if I have to get up to go to the bathroom, I left the dining room light on during the night as kind of a night light because I didn't want to be fumbling around or
Right, in a strange house. Yeah.
so the light did blink when I was getting ready to go to bed the first night. And I woke up at one point to turn over and the lights were just completely dark. And then when I woke up again and turned over again, they were back on again. I put that on the film and I said, faulty wiring, glitch in the system, make out of it whatever you will.
Or maybe the ghost just wanted you to have a good night's sleep. And they were like, we'll turn it on for if you're coming upstairs, we'll turn it on for you like a motion sensor, except instead it's a ghost sensor for those ghost sensors on your lights.
There is one chair in the house, which is in the living room, and it's adjacent to that hall that leads down to the basement door. And I did most of my writing there because it's more comfortable to sit there than the makeshift desk I made. So it's about 7:30 at night, and I'm sitting there, and I hear like this noise that sounds like a clicking sound. And I thought maybe it's something like a rapid dripping, something leaking. And I'm like, there's not a leak in here because it was 2 days of rain. And I get up and I'm looking around, and the sound was coming from the grate, from the heater over on the one side of the room.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, maybe it's a rodent, whatever. So I go back to my chair and I sit down. And from that basement door, I hear boom, boom. And I'm like, what?
What?
It had some pressure behind it, whatever it was. So I called Georgie and I said, I'm hearing knocking. And she's like, it's just noise. It can't hurt you, right? And I said, yeah, but since this is my last night here and things are happening, am I going to be in for a rough night? I said, I'm not staying. I got out of there.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I can't blame you. I really, really can't blame you on this. So we've got a couple of comments here. Mary says, I'm literally cleaning out second of 2 parents' homes in 2 years. Luckily, no weird vibes. Still happy to be listening to your voices while I load up trash and donate bags alone in the dark 5 a.m. in Hawaii. Oh, Mary, I'm so sorry. Daisy says, good morning. Avi is delighted that you are alive. Very glad that the ghost did not get you. Avi says Georgie Porgy had a great ghost. Okay, so Free Range Females says both the houses. So both of Free Range Females houses were haunted. 2 of them were haunted. They were both Victorian era. My mom's house was a former doctor's office. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
They were converted bedrooms in the attic. We heard footsteps all the time, and doors would slam shut. Woo.
Okay, so this house isn't the only one.
No. I don't. I think I told you guys this story before. When the Olympics were in Atlanta, I was living in Virginia, and I was like a house sat for someone, and she lived in this like Victorian house right downtown Richmond in this I still remember, like, this has been a gazillion years ago. She lived on Church Street, and it was this beautiful house she had completely restored. And I was reading a Patricia Cornwell novel, which is funny that there's actually, I think there's a movie with Nicole Kidman that's coming out soon that's based on one of those Kay Scarpetta novels. But if you are not familiar, Patricia Cornwell writes about a Richmond, Virginia medical examiner, and I was literally a block or two away from the ME's office. So everything she's writing about is around me. I'm young. I'm staying in this bad neighborhood in this creepy old house. I mean, it was a beautiful house, but it was a very creepy house at night. And like if she had not been paying me to house sit her house, I would never have stayed. And I was so freaked out because, and a part of it was the book I was reading, but part of it was just like the house had so many noises and weird things that would happen. Plus you never knew what was happening outside, and it was very scary. Free range female says, funny, we never got freaked out. We would just say, oh, there's a ghost.
Yeah, that's mainly what my family did too. But
yeah,
being there alone and hearing some banging, that's
right. Right. Well, and I guess it's like, it's one thing if you're used to it. It's another thing if you're like, I don't have to spend the night here. I could go somewhere else where I know all these.
Exactly.
I know all these.
And the place hasn't really been what you would call home since my mother passed. And
Right.
it looks completely different. My father never took care of the place. It looks like a haunted house now.
You should make sure that you get a picture of the outside, like in dusk or something, so you have something nice and creepy for your socials when you are ready to put all this stuff out. Daisy saw Light of the Living Dead when I was 7 or 8, have zombie nightmares into adulthood, but also gave me a zombie obsession. Love that. Did you hear? Isn't Night of the Horror Geek is in the other room? Otherwise, I would ask him, and I don't know if he's on today because he was trying to edit. But isn't that the one that takes place at that like Pittsburgh mall? Yeah,
no,
right.
Dawn of the Dead.
That's Dawn of the Dead.
Was it was part of the same series by George Romero, but Night of the Living Dead, the black and white one, was it starts out in a cemetery and then they get stuck in this house.
Right.
Stairs and
y'all don't tell. Oh, here he is. I was like, don't tell the Horror Geek I messed it up. But he's on. Grindhouse Gospel is his other channel. Ooh, love that. Oh my gosh. Mary Putnam. Roaches are my only phobia. Grew up in Southeast Texas, so you have a lot of experience, as we do here in Florida. It's always funny to me to see people who are new to Florida freak out over all the lizards that cross constantly when you're walking anywhere. Because once you've lived here for a little while, they'll just get out of the way. You don't even notice. But I remember when I first moved here, and I've seen tons of other people do this, that you like feel like you have to like wait and step over them, that you just walk and they just get out of your way. Free range female says, ooh, angry ghost. I've always wanted that. Ray says, I always wanted to write a ghost or horror story, but I'm not confident in my writing skills, especially non-poetry. My current non-poetry writing is psychological thriller-ish with literary fic. Love that. You know what? You'll never know whether or not you're going to be a great horror writer until you actually like knock it out.
Yeah, I stepped away from it for quite a few years until I decided I wanted to come back and revisit. And I composited a few novels that the first of which are going to start coming out probably next year. That's the plan, is to move this year because we're moving to California. And then by next spring, have the first one ready to go. And by fall, this one would come out kind of like September-ish before Halloween.
Love that. That's going to be fantastic. Well, I love it. Let's go ahead, since it's getting on to 11:30. Let's go ahead and get started with our first full-sized writing sprint of the day. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Robert. It was such a fun thing. Well, we had such a great time with it last week and this week, obviously, hearing what actually
I'll have to go back and watch
happened.
The preview of all this.
We were very worried about you, and also like 97% lovers of psychic shows on this on our show, which is kind of crazy that everybody was like, I love that. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, if you're going to watch any of them, you got to look at Seatbelt Psychic. just I love the concept of it, that there's this Uber driver driving around Los Angeles giving people psychic readings and like, oh, your grandma's in the back seat. I just thought that was hilarious. But also he was very intuitive and basically every person got out of his car crying. So in a good way. All right.
As a
Let's
sidebar, Scarpetta is on, I think it's on Prime. We just watched it.
Oh.
It's not a movie, it's a series. So 8 episodes and it's good. Watch it.
Oh. I didn't know. I just saw ads for it and I assumed it was an episode, it was a movie,
I thought it
but
was too.
that's interesting. I have a hard time. I think because I read so many of the books, I have a hard time seeing Nicole Kidman as Kay Scarpetta, who's the medical examiner. But
They do a pretty good job, and they have like part in the
well,
past and part in the present. And the people that they got to play the younger version of Nicole Kidman and
yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis do such a good job mimicking their personalities. It was just like fun to watch.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's the thing is as much as I'm like, oh, I don't really see it, I also think she's a very talented actress and that she'll like that it'll definitely be interesting and worth watching and she'll do a good job with it. So I'm
Yeah,
glad to hear that backed up. That's great. All right. Are you guys ready? Let's go ahead and do I'll get rid of breaking news. Let's go ahead and do our very first 20-minute writing sprint. Let Mary listen to some ocean sounds while she's packing in Hawaii. And we will be back in 20 minutes for more chat. Here we go. Starting in 3, We're back. We're back. How'd everybody do on that first sprint? Let us know in the chat how
I did
everything
pretty
is
well.
going. Yeah, fantastic. What's everybody working on today? I don't think we talked about that very much. Let us know in the chat what you're going to be working on. What are you working on today, Story Detective?
Well, since I finished this story, one of the first proofreaders is going to be Dal, and I'm making some editorial notes because I'm going to continue her education into editing because I think she would make a good editor. She has enough craft knowledge. She just needs to look at somebody else's book and be able to understand the criteria to make that story work in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. You're always so good at like teaching other people what is happening. This is one of my favorite things about you, Robert. I love that. That's fantastic. So I am actually working on a pitch today, but I'm almost done with it. So after that, I'm going to be working on some outlining for this Kapow book idea that I had the other like couple. I guess it's been like a week and a half ago. Um, Daisy brought this up, and I don't know. Um, I don't remember all of the details, although I know the author who was involved. But in any case, someone had said that an author was essentially plagiarizing. An established author had plagiarized this book, um, and she won the lawsuit because she was not. And I'm that this is a direct quote from the copyright lawsuit. Hot, sexy, dangerous boys, central to virtually all young adult romance novels, cannot be copyrighted. Yes. Yeah. This is like, it's kind of funny, not funny, haha. It's kind of funny that this happens. Oftentimes it's people who don't really understand what they're doing.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
were not, yeah, there were not, the judge had found there were not, that there were not copies, that the books were inherently different. And again, you're talking about an established author. And I think what was good about this was that, you know, she had the resources to be able to take this to court. But one of the things that she'd said about it was it's very frustrating because a lot of people do not have that, and so they end up with their account shut down on Amazon or whatever. This is another good reason why it's important to copyright your books.
Mhm.
And I wanted to say that, I wanted to give you a little something, Robert, for copyright. Sending off your copyright. Good job. Very, very good job. It's so important, you guys, especially now because our stuff is being it is being stolen on a regular basis. So anyway, I was very glad.
And even before that, I mean, ideas are stolen. That was one of the first things I learned is to copyright everything that's your intellectual property because it can be taken. Now, I did a lot of work for hire in my day, and I had a lot of ideas under work for hire, and some of those ideas were taken and utilized by completely different people. And though they made good money at it, I didn't make a dime, and there's nothing I could do about it because when you work for hire, you're working with
Right.
characters that belong to a company like Marvel. They can do whatever they want, and you don't have any recourse.
Right. Even if you were the person that breathed life into them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This is why a lot of publishers like those work for hire deals, because then they
Mhm.
get to keep the rights to that stuff forever. Or at least to the end of it kind of depends actually, because there are some where the rights can revert back to the author, so I shouldn't say that. And it's too bad that Michelle is not with us today because she does a ton of work for hire work. I've done some in the past, but I don't do it as much anymore. Free range female. I've been working on meeting my goal of finishing my novel draft by next month's deadline. Yay! That is fantastic. Love that. Ray's got 311 words written for Project What the Forest Knows. Oh, I love that. Mary Hand wrote a few places. Good for you. Possibly for Seniors Gone Wild. Yeah. That, okay, to me, can I say, I know you have gone through like 700 different title iterations, but that title, I just want to point that out now, is the one you keep coming back to. Just saying. Okay. Should I be sending my writing to the Copyright Office?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And
Now,
you can do like collected works, so you can just put them
mhm,
all in one, package. And but yeah, definitely copyright your work,
you
especially
need,
now.
yeah, you need to start an account before you copyright it. Otherwise, you'll get like a one-shot deal, and they'll charge you like $125 plus the 45 or $49, whatever it is. If you make an account, then it's a flat $65 rate per book, unless you're doing a group of books.
Thank you very much. Good job. All right, fantastic. Okay, you guys. Well, let us know if you haven't already what you are going to be working on today. Um, I'm gonna see if I can't find a link to the Wolf Crave copyright lawsuit I can drop in for anybody who's interested in reading more. And thank you, Daisy, for bringing that up, because I think it's kind of important. I did not do justice to the story, but at least you guys get it. It just feels like a win for a win for authors. Yeah. In any case, okay. Let's do another sprint.
Let's.
Let's see. Let me get this up here. Dun, da, da. All right, off we go. Okay, guys, we're going to do another 20-minute writing sprint. Get those little fingers stretched. Do your do some chicken arms there. I don't know. I just made that up. All right. But get the blood flowing to your brain and to your fingers. All right, here we go, everybody. We're going to get started in 3, 2, 1. 20 minutes on the clock. All right, we are back. How'd everybody do on that last sprint? Let us know in the chat. Let me get all my stuff rolling here. That went by super fast.
It did.
Super fast. All right. I'm whenever that happens, I always think like, oh, I've got like 10 minutes left, and then the thing goes off and you're just like, wait, what happened? So super productive though, so that's always a good thing. Let us know, you guys, in the chat how you did. Joseph's here. Joseph's one of my nonfiction clients working on your book. I'm super proud of you, Joseph. You know what? He took a little break, and now are very happy about that. Good job, Joseph. Very nice. Glad to see you here today. Fantastic. Free range female said the same thing. Too fast. I get that. I don't know what's, yeah, it did, right? It went by really fast. Ray says, created some art, didn't do any more writing yet. It's been hard today. Maybe I'll switch to poetry. I love it. You know what's crazy? My son, who has never written poetry, he's a good writer. And he's like better at story than most like normal random people. I think because literally like our family dissects stories for fun. So we'll watch a movie and then we'll kind of pull apart the plot and figure out, you know, what we liked, what we didn't like, what surprised us, what we saw coming, that kind of thing. And but he wrote a poem the other day and it's really good. I would share it with you, but I have not asked his permission, but I'll ask him for next week. It's short, but it was like, it's really well done. And not that I should be surprised, but I had no idea he had any interest in poetry. And then all of a sudden he just spits this thing out. And I was kind of impressed. So it was kind of cool. Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Anybody have any challenges? Ray says, yay, he wrote a poem. I always encourage poetry. Right? It's true. It's such a fantastic, and I think a lot of times people ignore poetry unless they feel particularly drawn to it. Like, I think it just doesn't get as much attention as other types of writing. But I always think of it like a wedding dress, whereas the ones that are the most expensive and require the greatest skill are the simple ones, the ones that have 75 pounds of tulle and bows and ribbons and sequins. That stuff can cover up a lot of flaws, but the minimalist dresses are the ones that have to have the best workmanship. And I think in many ways that the same thing is true for poetry. Don't get me wrong. It takes a lot of work to write a nonfiction book or a novel.
All the arts. Yes.
Right.
But the economy of anything requires that minimal amount needs more meaning. So it's really hard.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So it was like one of those things. I'll ask him if it's okay for me to share it for next week. And if he says yes, then I will share. But I really enjoyed it. Like and I got the meaning of it, which was kind of cool. He has a lot of depth, so that was pretty awesome. Avi writes poetry too, song lyrics even. I've written an anthem for my fictional prep school and lyrics for my spooky middle grade collection. I totally love this. I think at one time when I was like a kid, I really very seriously considered strong. Like I wrote a lot of songs when I was very young. And as an adult, this is one thing where I think like I would like to do that. Like I would like to get together with a musician and do lyrics for a song, because I love the challenge of those sort of constrained projects. And a lot of the things that you need for songwriting, like really good adherence to a theme, and like those are all things that I love. So yeah, fantastic. So if you happen to have a band and you're looking for a lyricist, hit me up.
We used to have two schools of thought on poetry. I mean, it doesn't get a lot of attention, but we used to have writers that said poetry is the heart of writing, because if you can get good imagery in your poetry, you know how to put that condensed kind of imagery without putting every detail into your writing. Then we had another school of thought, because we always have this division
Right.
that
Right.
some writers are frustrated poets because they add verses that are like poetry in their work. So it's a catch 22. But I think that kind of lyrical attitude or even like a literary touch in your writing only improves any genre that you're working on. I mean, Stein felt that way, and who am I to argue with him?
Right. Right. That's that. You make an excellent point there. You make an excellent point. Look who it is. We are super, super happy to see you. Very nice to see you too. Look at this. It's old homework this week. Shannon's here. Very nice to see you today. So glad to see it. Thank you very much for hitting the like button. I appreciate that. Ray says, I'd love to create songs with music, but I haven't tried it yet. Love that. Mars. Okay. Wait, Mars? You have to explain that one. I love it. That is absolutely fantastic, but I'm dying to know what you mean by that. Free Range Female, I wrote a musical back when I wrote scripts, but someone else did the music. I love that. That would be like my kind of second thing. I wrote plays though when I was a kid, and I was very fortunate that like the teachers in my elementary school were supportive because they would like let us stay in over recess, and like we did we would do like whole productions, and
Mhm.
I think about like some teachers would be like, go outside, like forget it, whereas we had this group of teachers that were super supportive, would let other kids come in and do the parts, and then would give us time to put on the show for for everybody else. And that was really powerful to me as like a third or fourth grader, that that I could create this and direct it and have all these other people participate, and that people wanted to do like that was like a kind of a formative experience for me.
Yeah, I enjoy theme albums. And if I ever wrote any kind of music, I thought it would be like a story set to music, just because they're kind of interesting and appealing to me.
I can't believe I missed this. Radiantly Mars. Yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate that so much. And sorry. Told you guys I have like some crazy brain fog lately. So please forgive me when I do something absolutely moronic. Anyway, there we go. Love that. Very nice. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started with another 20-minute warm-up quiz. And when we come back, we will talk about what is happening in the news for publishers. All right, here we go, everybody. Dun, dun, dun. I say that, I get everybody all excited, and then it takes me like another 10 seconds. I'm slow, and I need a producer back here. All right, here we go, everybody. We're going to get started with another 20 minutes on the clock. You're going to write as fast as you can, not thinking about your inner editor, and let's get some words down on the page today. Here we go. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. Sorry. I'm all good here. How'd you guys do in let us know in the chat how you did on that last sprint. That was another one that
overall, I think it was a pretty productive day.
yeah. Oh my God, it's almost 1:00. It has been very productive. I was all ready to go back for like another round. So, oh my gosh, I did not even realize we've got only 10 minutes to go. Well, let me quickly do the news since we did not get to that yet, and I'll do that real fast. It's not anything super. I love it. I still love it every time. All right. So here is the deal. We talked about this a little bit before. Tracy Wolf, who is author of the Crave series, did not infringe on copyright according to a federal judge, which ended a multi-year lawsuit brought on by an unpublished author. She said that the Crave series was substantially similar to one of her earlier manuscript, which had been submitted through a shared literary agent. So this is what matters for authors. You can't copyright ideas. You can't copyright tropes. You can't copyright vibes. You can only copyright your execution of all that. Mm-hmm. And how different authors approach different ideas is what makes all those books different. And I see this fear that someone else will steal your big idea more in first-time authors. And the truth of it is, authors typically have far more ideas than we actually have time to write. It's very rare to have anyone actually steal your idea. And the other part of that is that, now that's not true as far as stealing your books, but as far as just ideas, it's super, super rare. And it just doesn't typically happen very often in our industry. And so the best thing you can do is write your book with your voice and go from there. Second item up on the news list today, Meta AI ad changes. A lot of authors have found that in the last 6 months or so, since Meta changed how they are doing their advertising in blah, blah, blah. So here's what happened. Basically, Meta decided that AI did a better job of targeting people than you do. And so they removed all these options to target like other authors and very specific things. Basically, now it's your creative that's sort of leading who gets to see your books. And anybody who's done a lot of Facebook advertising knows that Meta's options typically the AI stuff makes your ads not perform quite as well. And so now we're more heavily into that. There are some authors that are still seeing some success, but when your budget is smaller, interest targeting is a little weaker, and algorithms need more data to optimize, meaning you have to run ads for longer before you figure out whether or not they're going to work. So I don't see a big change with that happening because it works best for Meta. But if you're an author, that target continues to move. Facebook ads are still working, but they're working better if you have a bigger budget or if you have like a full series versus trying to just send traffic to one book. One last reminder, it's the 18th of March. And as you guys all know, because I've talked about this a lot, Anthropic's AI settlement has a claims deadline approaching. If you have books that were scraped by Anthropic, the final drop dead claims deadline, March 30th, 2026, which is just in about a week and a half. You can either go to anthropiccopyrightsettlement.com or Authors Guild, and they have information there if you have not done that already. Get to it though, because your chance for, at least for this particular lawsuit, is running out. And that's the news for today.
And you unfroze just as the news ended.
Oh no, was I frozen the whole time? I'm just like blah blah blah.
As the chat says, at least you froze smiling, so it was almost
okay. Well, that's good. Oh God. All right. So Sorry about that. Okay, everybody. Let's see. Avi says I wrote a teen week magazine for my high school English project that they used as exam questions. Suffice it to say, I aced that class. I love that. That is absolutely fantastic. I'm sorry I froze through the news, you guys. There you go. Hi, everybody. Super glad to see you guys here. Da, da, da. Ray got or Mars got a poem written and edited. The whole stream went by. I'm glad I froze smiling. I will pop up the news. I'll stick it over on YouTube and I'll also pop it up on author.coach if you guys were interested in anything that I might have been talking about. Sorry, I froze. Oh, look at that. Working on an automation sequence for an 8-book series coming out this year. Good for you. This has been on my to-do list. Those automation, like a series of emails, like that you're in this spot, now go through this. I have been working on it. This is something that I'm getting better on this year, but oh my gosh, I dragged my feet on these. I'm very glad because, like, typically I would be frozen like that. So I'm glad. Exactly. I'm glad that the universe was smiling on. Nice work. Very great. 378 words on a story I should have completed a while ago. I got that. Thanks so much. See you next week. Very nice. All right. Well, before we go, let's go ahead and do our outros. Robert, tell us a little about you and your fine channel before we wrap it up today.
My fine channel, as always, is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling and place them under a Sherlockian lens and break down the craft for the viewer to make your craft journey easier. Also, for those of you that weren't around in the beginning, if you're interested in becoming a beta reader for my horror novella, you can contact me at storydetective@gmail.com. I'm going to make a more formal announcement when I get back on social media next month. I have 5 beta readers. I'm going to try to get 12 and do the Stephen King 12 readers doing like a test audience kind of thing and see how
nice. I love that. That is absolutely awesome. Well, thank you so much as always for being here. I'm Lisa Daly. On my channel, we talk about how to write a book you're super proud of and get it published. And that's it for us today. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. And we will see you all next Wednesday. Bye, everybody.
Keep those keywords